July the 10th, 2023. Ask you all to please stand, put your hand over your hearts, and join us in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated if you can. Fiscal officer will take the roll.
Bell.
Here.
Berger.
Here.
Canton.
Here.
Kavanaugh. Here. Leakey.
Here.
Porter.
Here. Before we get to the minutes, obviously there are a lot of people here that have a lot of things they probably want to say. We do have one person, Dan Leffler. Dan, are you here?
I'm here.
Here. He will be our first speaker. So if you'd like to speak, on the back of the agendas is the paragraph. Now, some of you got the agendas that I just copied, and I just didn't copy the back side. But anyhow, there's a paragraph on the back of the agenda talks about how we handle the meeting and what we do. So if you could read that while we go through the minutes. All right, we have the minutes from the June 12th.
Hey, before the minutes, we have to do the tax
Budget. Okay. I'll turn the floor over.
Ready? Okay. The proposed 2024 tax budget includes estimated revenues for the general fund of $1,349,073, with estimated expenses of $1,484,310. Safety fund revenues of $1,748,476 and expenses of $1,753,710. Operating fund revenues of $471,946 and expenses of $473,485. Road and bridge fund revenues of $242,090 and expenses of $236,000 even. Special revenue fund revenue of $2,977,434 and expenses of $3,099,004. Capital project fund revenues of $450,000 even and expenses of $452,760. And fiduciary fund revenues of $120,000 even and expenses of $120,000 even.
Any other action need to be taken?
Not until the regular meeting.
Okay. We are now having the minutes of the June 12th regular council meeting. Anybody have any changes or corrections to the minutes?
Move to approve.
Move to approve
I
by
second.
Porter, seconded by Canton. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes have passed. We have minutes of the special council meeting, which was the park luncheon for June the 16th. Any changes or corrections in the special council meeting minutes? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
Move.
So moved by Canton, seconded by Kavanaugh. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes have passed. Okay, Dan, I'm going to ask you to make your way to the microphone. Now, the microphone is simply for those people who are watching on our YouTube channel. It does not amplify your voice. So when you talk, it's not.
I'm a little bit hard to hear, so I will attempt to talk loud, so if anybody can't hear me, just ask me this.
Okay, the only problem that we'll have a tough time hearing you, maybe the people behind you. Now, Dan, we'll give you 5 minutes, and after 3 minutes, I will raise my finger, 2 fingers up, and let you know that you got 2 minutes left.
Okay.
And let me just get started. Okay, floor is yours, Dan.
All right, good evening. My name is Dan Leffler. I'm here on behalf of Eric Kimball tonight. As you know, Eric was a sergeant with the Village Police Department here until his resignation on January 28th. You may have heard or been informed that Eric was terminated or about to be terminated and accused of theft of time for the reason for his resignation. I would like first to clear the air on Eric's resignation, and secondly, to state that the responses that we've received from the village after that have been troubling. I prepared a set of documents, if you would like to see them at some point after my talk today, and I'll make them available for you if you want. Eric was approved to attend the Police Executive Leadership College, also known as PELC, and was sent on behalf of the department. The first week session, there were 3 different sessions. The first week session was from January 16th to January 20th in Columbus. Eric was sent to PELC in lieu of his normal 80-hour work week at the department, or his work schedule at the department, and it was his understanding that he was going to be paid 80 hours like he normally would. On January 15th, he drove to Columbus. He attended the training during that week, drove back from Columbus on January 20th, and arrived at approximately 2:15 in the afternoon. As noted by the course documents, as I will provide to you, it's an intense training. It includes after-hours meetings. After the session's over, there's meetings. And he also had homework to prepare for the next day. By my calculation of the actual hours that he would have worked from January 9th to the 14th, and the hours that he would have put in at the training as outlined by the training material, he would have worked over 85 hours during that 2-week period. Keep in mind that he was told and was instructed that his time at the training was in lieu of his normal work schedule, and that he expected to be compensated as if he had worked his regular schedule. The chief at some point indicated or told Eric that he was going to be charged with stealing 2 hours of time because on his timesheet for January 20th, Eric had put down that it was 5 p.m. when he arrived home, not 3 p.m. The chief accused him of trying to steal the 2 hours, despite the fact that he had worked over 80 hours in that 2-week period, and probably in our calculation, close to 85 hours during that time. Even without the 2-hour discrepancy, he would have been over 80 hours in that period. When asked about it, Eric acknowledged the error, said he would correct it, but any error would have been to the benefit of the village, not to Eric himself. During a meeting on January 20th at about 10:30 in the morning, Eric was told to report to the chief's office. He was told by the chief that he was going to be terminated and he could potentially be charged with a crime. The chief indicated that the information had been given to the mayor and village council, that they had been apprised and they had agreed with his assessment. In an attempt to save his reputation, and rather than deal with the false allegations, Eric resigned. If anyone knows Eric and his wife Kelly, as I do, they know the accusations would have been laughable. Eric had over 20 years in public service, served honorably for 4 years in the military, and was months away from retirement. If Eric had been given a fair due process hearing, I'm confident he would have been exonerated. But the damage didn't stop there. I submitted a records request on February 22nd, seeking any evidence of an investigation into Eric's alleged charges. If an investigation is done on a 20-year police officer, I would expect that there would be interview notes, supervisor's notes as to what actions were taken, any witness statements that were taken, if they had called down to the PELC leaders to find out how many hours he'd actually worked, any other documents or records substantiating the allegation of a 20-year police officer. In short, none of that was available. On January 23rd, the law director called me directly and said that there was no investigation. Therefore, my public records request didn't have any responsive documents. In my request, as you'll see, I say I wanted all the records relevant to the investigation. She indicated there was no investigation, there was just the one piece of paper, the timesheet. Several weeks later, we ended up getting a copy of Eric's personnel file, and it contained an email from the chief that said, after concluding his investigation, well, if there was an investigation, there were no records that were provided to it, or there was no investigation as was indicated by the law director. They both cannot be true. Something was wrong. The chief had indicated in his email.
My apologies. Potential apologies. Please continue.
The chief had indicated in his email that after the investigation, there were a number of group 3 offenses. In his conversation with Eric, he had indicated that he had already apprised the mayor and village council of the allegations. That meeting took place at 10:30 in the morning. The first email from the chief to the mayor and village council was at 11:09, almost 40 minutes after the meeting with Eric and after he'd already resigned. The email also indicated that the records would have been responsive to my request, because my request was specifically for any text, emails, or any other documents that said investigation relative to Kimball. And his email has the word Kimball at the top of it, would have shown up in the public records request. Those documents were not provided to me as part of my request. The also troubling part about that is that there was, when Eric submitted his resignation, there was a typed document. In the typed document, it indicated that he was resigning in good standing, and he physically signed the document. We were able to find a resignation letter that was sent to the Manaway Police Department that did not include the part that he was resigning in good standing, and it did not have a Eric's signed document. Clearly, the document had been forged or altered and sent out, despite the fact that it was not the original resignation letter that Eric had submitted. When a request was made for that document, it was indicated that the village doesn't have his original resignation. So we want to know whether there was an investigation, and if there was not an investigation, who is telling the truth? And we also would like to know where the original letter is and why a forged or altered document was sent out to the Manaway Police Department. Finally, we would like that Eric's reputation be cleared, that he be given back his good standing with the village, and some type of an apology from the village for putting him and his family through this really under false pretenses. Thank you. Now, for the documents,
Dan, first of all, my apology for my lack of skill with my own phone.
yeah.
Because you have said some things that counter what we believe, what we will do tonight is I will ask Councilman Camp, he's head of our safety committee. We will go into an executive session at the end of tonight's council meeting. When we come out of that executive session, we seldom if ever take any action. But I will contact, or the solicitor will be in contact with you sometime this week.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak to the village?
You're allowed to,
Yes, sir.
without having pre-permission?
Yes, you may. Please come forward. I don't want to say Phil, but please give your name and address, Phil.
Okay, I'm Phil Austin, I live at 109 Leavview Lane, and Eric lives on the next street. I'm just here as a friend for his, what do you call it, when you're supporting somebody. I've never been to his house, I don't know what policies he has politically. He's never been to my house, but we walk, my wife and I walk every day. And I've talked to Eric so many times, we've seen him on the job. Eric has always been nothing but kind and a gentleman, and I just couldn't believe this when I heard that he was no longer on the police force. So for me, coming from me is, I don't know what happened, I don't know whether he shows up for work on time or, what happens, but I'm just saying, I'm giving character reference from me to him, because I think he's a really, really fine man, and I feel so bad about this. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Phil. Yes, name and address.
Maya Sterling, 512 Woodland Court, Great Falls, South Russell. I've known Eric and his family for many years. Eric, to me, he's, like he said, he's just the kindest guy. He's got the biggest heart. I mean, he would do anything for you. He is a salt of the earth to me. He has such integrity. The fact that this is, that I've got the goosebumps right now, just that this is happening because it's so, I just can't even believe it. I mean, it's just a beautiful, wonderful family, and I have so much respect for him. And he's just a wonderful, caring, loving person.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Tim Hummer, 106 View. And my biggest concern, I've been in senior executive leadership, large corporations for over 30 years. Been involved in a lot of terminations of employees, good and bad, wrongful, not wrongful. But hearing what was said tonight and what's led up to this, and I realize this is an executive session issue, especially with it being employment related. I just sincerely hope that the village takes a long, hard look at this, ensure that the appropriate steps and investigation are taken. And if not, and if a mistake was made, which I believe is to be the case, then we do the right thing as a village and take care of Eric and his family. I am shocked when I hear the allegations that were stated a minute ago that a village this small could have an employee issue and the way it was. And I'm disappointed.
Thank you.
I'm Brittany Beavers, and I'm 129 Lakeview Lane. I wasn't going to talk at all, but I felt really impelled to talk on sort of a different area about Eric. I'd certainly like to be, a character reference for him and his family. They're wonderful people, but my experience is a little bit different. I have a high school senior, just graduated. My last 6 years has had shown an interest in law enforcement. He had an opportunity and was required to do a capstone project for Spring Falls High School. And he knew immediately what he wanted to do was shadow a police officer. He wanted to shadow Eric. Eric agreed to it. We of course did ask Eric because he was our neighbor. Jackson had the most amazing experience with Eric. He shadowed him for the majority of the day. What he was able to do with him, what would be allowed. Very thorough, very professional. My son had a lot of questions that you would imagine at the time he was a freshman about being a law enforcement officer. And I was thrilled because in the day and age that we're in right now, it's we want our young people, right, coming into the force, adding them to the police force. And Eric really was such an amazing role model for my son Jackson. And I just wanted to at least say that, Jackson, my son, got to have that experience with him, and couldn't have been a better opportunity for Jackson to learn and know more about what it is to be a police officer today. So, thank you.
Steve Schmicke, I live at 111 Levy Lane in South Russell. I'm here to vouch for his character. Eric has volunteered so many times in our community that it's beyond words. We dredged our settling pond a few years ago. We paid for all the equipment. Eric donated his labor, which was many hours. Every year, he's, at least for the past couple of years, he's been the escort for yours truly, Santa at the lake, and visiting all the kids. I've had nothing but positive experiences with the entire family. I respect them greatly. And something smells here. There's something wrong with the story. 2 hours is not a reason, even if it was, well, I won't say that, that's not true. If it was malicious and that was the intent, was to cheat the township out of 2 hours and risk a career and a very soon-to-be retirement, then that would disappoint me in Eric. I don't believe that's the case. There's something else happening here. So I hope we get thoroughly investigated.
I'm Sharon Stern, and I've known Eric since first about 20 years ago, I think, and I've always known him to be very upstanding and honest and dependable and just a truly good person, a compassionate person. And I don't know the details of what is being brought against him, but I just want to speak for his character. I think he's a good guy.
Thank you. What was your address?
Sharon Stern.
Address?
Oh, I live in Sugar Falls on Hamlet Hills.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak?
Here we go.
What's the time limit?
I'm Emily Austin, I live at 109 Leeview, Phil's wife, and Eric's neighbor. And every time I've ever encountered Eric on the street, in the police car, there's always a wave. He's friendly, he's the epitome of good character, wonderful personality and dedication. And we had, at the beginning of COVID, one of our neighbors turned 90, and they had, because nobody could go see Ed Colbert, they had a drive-by birthday party for Ed. And the police car, only in South Russell will that happen. You have a drive-by birthday party led by a police car with every sound and noise and visual thing going. And the tail end of the parade was the same way. And Eric was in there. Phil played his bassoon. I played my fiddle. That'll teach him to have a 90th birthday. But it was wonderful. It was an exceptional, one-of-a-kind birthday. And Eric was there, and the family's fine. The family's so fine. And it just breaks my heart that they're going through this. So, anyway, that's kept it short this time.
My name is Paul Brannett. I live on Hemlock Road in Twin Falls. Just wanted to say that I've known Eric for probably 20 years, and I've known Kelly for twice that length of time. I have had business dealings with Eric, and have found him to be nothing but scrupulously honest and professional in every way. And it's my sincere hope that this council and the mayor can find a resolution that is satisfactory to all the parties.
Thank you.
Master Kimball, 104 Lakeview Lane. My father doesn't deserve this, not at all. He's raised me to be such an upstanding young man, and he just doesn't deserve this. Everything that he's done, and he's done it to his best ability, and he's such a person of high character, and I love him, and please make this right. He doesn't deserve it.
Thank you.
well, heard me speak on the 13th of March. And I said I'd be back with questions, and I figured it'd be better for someone with more clout than myself to have these questions. And all of these people here are very concerned about this village, this mayor, the council, our solicitor, the incongruities that have happened. What Chief has leaned over Eric on the 5th of January before this all happened and told him he was nothing more than a glorified patrolman when his executive privileges were removed on January 1st for no reason, no explanation. He went to Lieutenant Joseph Buchanan and looked me in the eye numerous times and asked him why his administrative privileges were removed. He said, oh, I'll get back to you. There are too many manipulative, pre-existing things that happened prior to January 28th. And the very fact that the chief and the lieutenant called him in after he worked all night long. He went to work at 5 p.m. on Friday night. He worked all night long. They called him in at 10 in the morning on Saturday when the mayor was out of town, HR was out of town, and then sat him down like he was being, like, what do you do when you sit down with a chair in front of and you're setting somebody up for, like, you're giving them the axe, basically, doing that to him when he hasn't slept at all on a Saturday morning when everybody's out of town. There's too many things that happened that nobody has done anything about. The solicitor tells our lawyer that there was no investigation, there's no records. You, after he retired, resigns, puts a bomb email in his file. Any prospective employer who looks at that, what are they gonna think? So not only do you screw us, our family, we have no health care. 2 days after this happened, we have no health care. Has anybody ever tried to get,
You're talking to us.
has anybody ever tried to get government health care? Oh yeah, we have COBRA. We have COBRA, but it's $2,000 a month in January. How many things could you do to our family in this amount of time? So it just is, it needs to be made right. It needs to be made right. This is, we've lived here for 23 years. You call him brother.
Kelly, talk to us.
Wednesday before this happened, we needed somebody to put a, what do you call it, when you get a thing on the, we needed a, call it when you get a stamp on there, you just.
The notary.
Notary, thank you. Eric called Chief, Chief's like, yeah, I'll do it. He shows up all smiles in the department. Eric's so great, he keeps his place so clean. He's just like, blowing smoke up our ass about how great Eric is. I'm sorry. And this happens 2 days later. I mean, it is despicable. I am ashamed to live here right now. And the fact that no one is doing anything about it is the biggest shame to me. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak to council this evening? If not, we will head off with the rest of the meeting. The next regular council meeting is on Monday, August the 14th, 7 p.m. If something were to come up, we would notify you in our normal process. But at this point in time, we're going to head off into our meeting. We'll take about a 2-minute break for those of you that want to get out and work through the crowd here, head for home.
Thank you.
Yeah. A lot of bodies in there. Yeah, well.
It cooled down real fast.
They called me lost and they got on the phone.
Okay. And you'll see something in the next. Do it in one hand. Yeah, a little bit better every day.
I broke my hand and smashed up my right side, so I,
Okay, we'll take that, thank you so much.
I think there's an electric bike out of Midway, and I've done 12 miles on the trail. Just headed back into the barn. Previous intersections, there's a couple of major roads that cross the trail. While I dismounted previously, ride the bike across, the last one, I said, I'll ride the bike across. What I didn't realize is I had the bike in confusion. So I just had a hard time started just by pedal. So cars are bearing down and my wife said, "Your little power." Gave it
She's on the bike right now.
Wow.
The doors open.
Into the guard on black and blue. Oh my God. All the way down her ankle on my right side. You know, I'm losing the black and blue skin. So I threw up the bone.
So this is a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it was Father's Day. So, yeah. And praying the bike. So it was not a happy event. It was a great day. The trailer was great. The experience was great. Yeah, but it didn't. It didn't necessarily make me sad. I'll never do that. It was an unfortunate accident, and shit like that happens. But yeah, I clanged the guardrail, went over, wasn't wearing a helmet, wearing a ball cap.
Is the AC on?
Hit the ground, because I landed head first.
Too many bodies in my system.
Just looking at it,
Okay, based on what we just heard, there's a difference of opinion, what was stated tonight, and what we believe to be the facts of the situation. We will go into executive session at the end of this meeting, and hopefully we will not take any action coming out, but we will have a discussion about what has occurred this evening. Okay, here at the mayor's report. First thing, on July the 12th, Bruce Ennis, he runs Ennis Communications. He was a part of the leadership program that Danielle and I went through. This man is excellent. He's known around the world. He's offering 3 hours of free tutoring education next Thursday, July the 20th, from 9 to noon at Independence. It's something, he's just an excellent guy. And Danielle can vouch for him too.
So what will the content be, Mayor?
Yeah, if you want to go, let me know. We probably should carpool, and then I'll just let you know who's all coming. Subject matter on communications.
Okay.
Crisis communication. Something like East Palestine, stuff like that. Okay, second thing, to remind everybody, there is a concert next Tuesday night. That is at 6 o'clock. Normally they've been at 7, we moved it to 6, and I think we got 2 different times out there. We'll get that correct.
It's a week from tomorrow, Mayor?
A week from tomorrow, jazz concert. We have 4 pavilion rentals that I approve, so you need to approve my approval. 2 of them on July 15th and 16th. It's the same party. They're not sure what day they're going to use, so they pay for both days. But there'll be about 20 people. They will be having alcohol. There is a pavilion I approved on August the 6th. That will involve alcohol and over 50 people. And there is a pavilion request for September 15th. They will have a food truck. I approved all those. Is there any concern? Okay, we'll move on with that. Okay. There's a letter in your packet. NOPEC was offering grants through the NOPEC Foundation. Green River Watersheds asked me to write a letter, and I did that while I was on vacation. So that is in there. We need to approve this letter. Okay. Okay. Coming around, I'll just make one copy. The Village of Plain City, it's their newsletter, 12-page newsletter. I'll just pass it around. You can see what this little village is doing. And
Is this the one that's often talked about being comparable to ours there?
yeah, in a way, but they're more like a city. I mean, they got swimming pools and they got a lot of different things going on. There is a meeting on Wednesday with Green River Watershed Partners. We're looking at what we can do with the general water situation. This is kind of like an overview now. But when we started looking at the situation of Paw Paw, and you realize a lot of that water and debris starts at the intersection of Stafford and Haskins, which is, about 2 miles away, and it just flows this way until it hits the Paw Paw silt pond. So we're gonna have a meeting and see if we can get something going in this part of the county.
Mayor, I have that down as a Zoom meeting,
It's a Zoom meeting, yes.
so they will let us know that we can,
If you want to do it, if you want to attend, so we could have one person attend.
So, yeah, sorry, would it be a committee or would it be?
No, it's just a meeting that I'm having with Green River Watershed Partners, but we probably could have a council member watch, right? One,
You could. Is there a reason why you guys don't want to do it in person?
you want to do what?
Have a meeting in person or you just?
Oh, no, I don't know who all have been invited.
We wouldn't want a majority of council or committee, right, present, because we can't do that.
No, I just
Council.
said, we have one person attend,
Yes.
and since Ruth spoke up first, I guess I'll get you the connection. Okay, that's it. Questions of the mayor? Fiscal officer?
Do you want to approve and ratify your letter? Should we wait on that?
We should move to ratify the letter that I sent out at the end of June. Yeah.
I move that the council ratify the letter sent by the mayor to NOPEC Foundation Board.
Yes. Yeah. It's been moved and seconded. We need a second.
Second.
Second by the Berger. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now with the fiscal officer.
I distributed my report to mayor and council. I don't know if there are any questions.
Yeah, it looks like we're ahead on the income tax still.
Yes, we are still, so for the tax budget, I did increase it from what we budgeted this year, and then we'll just watch it cautiously and see, how it progresses throughout the year.
Do we have any idea why it was such a significant increase?
Well, remember, the last 2 months were estimates, so that month was our actual plus the adjustments from the 2 months.
Okay,
prior.
but, so are the estimates in prior years, or are those in different months?
It's usually always in the same month. It's always, May is always an estimate from April because that's tax collection month. And some years, May is June is an actual, sometimes it's estimated, so.
Okay. Because, I tried to look at consistency of where the estimates were, and
And sometimes
there isn't any.
you can have 1 or 2 taxpayers paying a different month, and that could shift it because sometimes a whole lot, so.
Okay. Well, June of 2022 was $206,000, and 2023 was $360,000.
Right.
That's a significant difference. So,
Also be late
75%.
Could also be late payments.
oh, that's possible, okay. I mean, so,
They weren't credited in May, but were credited in June.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions of the fiscal officer? Finance committee, you're up.
Okay, so I would like to start by making a motion to adopt the 2024 tax budget as presented, which you have received, and as the numbers that I read earlier tonight.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passed.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion to approve the purchase of a bench in honor of Greg Pike, and that is to be made with donations made in memory of Greg at the existing rates.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passed.
And having done that, now I would like to make a motion to amend our policies for the park bench and tree costs to raise those rates to $1,100 for a bench and $700 for a tree.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passed.
Thank you. The next Finance Committee meeting will be this Friday at 9 a.m. And that's all I have.
Questions of the Finance Committee? Solicitor, the floor is yours.
So the state budget bill passed, the governor signed it into legislation on July 3rd. And in that included a couple of things for municipalities. One is the publication of ordinances and resolutions. It used to be that we would publish in a newspaper of general circulation. And we kind of changed our codified ordinances to kind of be in alignment with that. Now there are 3 different ways to actually publish an ordinance or a resolution. One is in a newspaper, the other is on the official public notice website, or on the website of the village. And if the reason I'm bringing this up is because, again, our codified ordinances recently were amended just to do publication in a newspaper. My recommendation would be, let's be in alignment with this new law and at least include all 3 options, and or pick one. So that would be something that I can draft up maybe for the next meeting. And then the other part was that the legislature, I think this was an oversight, but in municipalities or villages that have an administrator, the competitive bidding threshold went up $25,000. So now everything at $75,000 or more is competitively bid, but not for our village. So I think that was an oversight. We'll see what the legislature will do, but it's only in those villages that have an administrator. Very strange, right? So we really do think that everyone in our office is saying that has to be an oversight.
Did they define administrator?
Yeah, the actual code section for sure. There's only a very specific, it's very interesting.
Does this have any effect on townships?
Yeah, it does. Townships and counties are all included in the raising of the threshold. So that's school boards. Very strange.
Anything else for the solicitor? Questions of the solicitor?
I have a question, Solicitor. You know, I in reviewing your charges for the last go-around, I, noticed a charge for about $630 for your services with respect to a liquor license. And I was wondering why was the village engaged in investigating a liquor license for a private concern?
Sure, maybe it should have said legal research regarding liquor license, but the question was whether or not, what the village's role is with respect to someone who's seeking a liquor license. So there is one called TREX, which has to do with a transfer based on economic development, which is if there are no liquor licenses still in the village because of the quotas or they're all sold, a business can approach the village and ask that this be part of an economic development project. So this was actually something that the mayor had asked me about a business here in town.
Okay. It just seemed unusual, so.
Sure.
Any other questions of our solicitor? With that thought, with this 50,000 going up to 75,000. Wednesday is the township dinner. I'll be leaving here at 5:30 if anybody wants to ride along out to Troy Township for the township dinner. Engineer, you're up.
Well, thank you, Mayor. The 2023 road program has gotten underway. The contractor, as I had previously reported to Streets Committee, was scheduled to be in town on Friday to do some asphalt recycling work, but ran into a scheduling difficulty. They asked if it was okay to start and work on Saturday. That was fine. They kept within our village working hours. So Specialized Construction began and completed the asphalt pavement recycling on Maple Springs on Saturday, and are slated to move over to Woodside in the very near future to do the asphalt pavement recycling there. You may have noticed if you stopped out that they had applied about an inch of 57 limestone over the top of the pavement. They surface spread it before they recycled. They've done that on several streets in the past several years. They do a core, they do a pavement core before they do the recycling. And they determine how much latent asphalt, the black stuff that holds everything together, is present in the existing roadway, how many layers it is, what kind of aggregates are in there. And they found that on both Maple Springs and on Woodside, we're stretched real thin on the larger aggregate. It's a lot of real small fines in order to kind of bolster the performance of that recycling. They surface applied the 57 limestone, which is, pebbles about that big, over the top of the roadway before they mix it in and recycle. So if you notice it, good. It's kind of an interesting process that they do. It's not something that we've always done. It's maybe in the past 10 years. That's something that we look at to improve the quality of the finished product. Like I said, they'll be doing the same thing over on Woodside. So if you have a chance to stop out and look for it, it's interesting to see. Other than that, the only other item I have is Tim and I, the Streets Commissioner and I, are attending a pre-construction meeting tomorrow morning at 9:30 at the Geauga County Engineer's Office for the Washington Street paving project. We will go to rep the village and report back if there's anything unusual, but I imagine that since we've agreed to pay for our share of that project locally, to have the whole street done, that's what'll happen. So
Is Spring Valley Paving doing that one too,
I don't know who the contractor is, but I'll find out tomorrow at the pre-construction meeting. It was something that we didn't bid, we're just participating financially in it.
So they'll probably do the close down one lane and switch it?
I'll let you know, likely yes. With asphalt paving, you can generally keep a pretty tight work area, and as soon as the large rollers the asphalt comes off the truck, goes into the asphalt paver churns along and lays a new asphalt roadway. As soon as the large rollers hit that, it is both compacted and cooled enough to get vehicle traffic on right away. So I imagine they'll do a local rolling lane closure when the paving happens, so they can flag people around. It'll be a terrible disturbance. Washington Street's very busy. We'll have to grit our teeth and get through it, but I suspect it'll move along just fine.
Other questions of our engineer?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Do we have an official number of ponds or bodies of water and stuff?
Ponds, yes. Could I tell you the number off the top of my head? No, but I've quantified them all.
I've heard a couple numbers, 41 or 47.
Sounds about right. I'd have to look at my list, Jerry, to.
Could you send me an email? Is that possible?
I think Councilman Berger, as part of our utilities committee, shared the Excel spreadsheet and the PDFs that
I can do that again for you.
go with it.
That's not a problem.
Yeah, and just as a little follow-up to that, there's a lot. The threshold I used for adding the pond body of water into the spreadsheet was surface water has to drain into it, and it has to have a channel to drain out of it. There are several like little backyard, like decorative ponds or koi ponds or the surface water that don't interact with surface water and have no actual outflow. I didn't include any of those. Those are just decorative water features.
Your opinion, these decorative ponds,
Yeah,
do they receive silt?
no, because, well, I take that back. Yes, they likely do, but not from surface water. Anytime you have leaves and debris that fall into them, yeah, that breaks down and causes silt. But it's not, there's, the decorative ponds that I did not include in the list have no surface water flowing in and no water flowing out, either during the rain event or otherwise.
And you're either going to make or you have made a study of the ponds. What type of shape they're in, you graded them for silt content?
Working on it.
They're working on it. I think it's very good to know.
Working on that. In Utilities Committee, we talk, you probably know, we talk about a whole lot of stormwater in Utilities Committee. It might be more prudent just to name it, the stormwater utility as of late. That's mostly what we've talked about. But anyhow, yeah, there were several metrics that Utilities Committee, once I got the list kind of compiled together and sorted, there were several metrics that the Utilities Committee asked me to start filling in and fleshing that out. So it's not just a list, it's got some metrics to it. One is, I can't tell depth, but I'm put in there for depth as we dig deeper in the future. If we can quantify a depth on it, there'll be a field to add it. One of the fields is how big surface area. One of the other things I'm looking at is how big of a drainage area in acres actually is possible to flow into this thing.
So when I speak to constituents about silt challenges that we have, and I mentioned that we have anywhere between 41 and 47 ponds in the village, that's quite accurate then.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions of our engineer?
Grade line.
Culverts.
Oh, the culverts, yeah, the Chillicothe Culvert Project. The roadway disruptions are done. They still have yet to install the inlet control structure on the new roadway culvert that is across the street from Shearbrook. That's the sole remaining work item that needs to be done to complete the contract portion of the work. But other than that, the culverts themselves are in and done, yes.
And Danielle, you got our project done, the culvert project done in advance of the deadline by like 2 days.
CT and Eric and I and the mayor, we were really a fine-tuned instrument getting that done by the deadline.
Absolutely, kudos to the village.
And we got it done.
My point is, the engineer oversaw the project, but getting the paperwork finished so they didn't yank our grant back.
From a mayor who was out of town, so he got it done. So we got it done, yes.
The administrative bunch that supported it all. Thank you.
I don't think there was a super big risk of that, but we came together and got it done, so I didn't have to ask for any kind of extension.
The Dutch had an expression, the best way to stay out of danger is stay out of gun range.
Correct.
Other questions of our engineer? I have a question. Eric, it looks like we're stopping on East Washington at Cleveland Clinic. Am I not seeing the markings on the road properly?
I can't.
There's a sign says N right there at the Cleveland Clinic. It's not, I thought they were going all the way to St. John's.
I think they are.
Okay.
I don't know what, I haven't driven down there in the last couple of days, so I don't know what they've got marked or signs out. But no, that doesn't make a lot of sense. That may be for something else and not the paving project, I don't know.
I'll look at that.
It's painted too.
Well, certainly it'd be part of the pre-construction.
Correct, we'll get the rundown on that tomorrow.
Is that Chagrin where they wrote the N?
We go all the way to St. John's.
That's what I thought.
But just some spray paint on the road and a sign that says construction ends. It's right there by the Cleveland Clinic.
That's unusual.
Keep going.
The other thing, a compliment to you, I don't know if we could do any better than Gray Line or Specialized as far as working with residents. I told Eric, I watched Saturday morning, a guy came out of his house with a bunch of zucchini bread and gave it to the Specialized guys. I think because he had entertained his sons all that Saturday morning. Their courtesy with people is just terrific, both of them, terrific.
Noted, and I share those opinions.
Street Commissioner, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. That's been my report for June. And additionally, the Chillicothe Road work is going to start July 24th with drainage. And paving is going to start August 4th and due to be completed by October 15th.
We're talking 306
306.
project,
Yes.
August 4th start.
Start the 24th of July with drainage issues.
At the intersections outside of the village.
Well, there can be anywhere from maybe 7 to
Wow.
Washington Street. And for August, they're going to start paving. Or they're going to start milling and doing pavement work.
We have a completion date in mind,
October 15th. By October 15th.
so we're gonna have 2 months of fun.
I don't think it's going to take long.
Other questions of the Street Commission? Street Commission.
Sorry, just clarify again, with the culvert program, are we done with the driveway culverts now? As far as we know?
We have one more came up that they're getting a new driveway.
Okay,
Off the countryside, and they want to put color pipe.
okay, so for council's information, how many did we do this year
38.
so far? And that represents historically,
Well, there was 6 on Chillicothe, 6 on Woodside, 13 on Maple Springs, leaving 12 additional spread out across the.
okay, but is that more than we usually do in a year?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions of our Street Commissioner?
Thanks for getting it done.
Thank you.
We have a new expression.
Yes.
I'm the engineer, do you wanna hear it, Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, I heard it. It's worth repeating.
On the ball and ready to install.
Son got to lose that. Okay, one other thing. You got your crew got a compliment from Tom King, resident, on Wednesday. Tree fell down, it was about 5 o'clock, and they called and somebody came out and took care of it. So, thanks. By committee.
Street committee met. It's being done with 10-hour days. We were able to get 3 done a day.
Anywhere from 1 to 3.
Anywhere from 1 to 3. Okay.
How deep they are, how long they are, the issues we run into, utilities in the way, you never know what you're going to find.
That's true. Kind of related to that, with all the culvert pipe work, fuel usage is up. So we may be coming in the fall asking for an amendment to the budget for fuel. We don't know at this time, but just we have enough fuel ready for plowing season. We will keep everyone abreast as the months go on. Also related to all the culvert repairs, last year we reclamated the roads that we paved the previous year, and the funds we used for that were from the base bid. This year, a lot of the base bid dollars are probably going to be used preparing the driveway aprons for all the culvert repairs. So what we're going to do is we're going to go out to get a quote on reclamate for the roads we paved last year to see what it would look like, see if it'll still fit in what's left from the base repair, or if the cost benefit is there, do we suggest to council to move forward and amend the budget? We don't know at this time. We don't know what it looks like. Just making you aware that this might be coming down the pike. Lastly, I think last month we talked about 1181 Shearbrook and potentially putting a drainage channel to help with stormwater. The homeowner has declined our offer, so that issue is closed. Our next meeting is August 4th at 7:30 a.m. in the Street Commissioner's office. Councilman Porter, do you have anything else you want to add?
Just one thing, Tim, would I be right to think that the culverts that were done this year, that's not like the end of the culvert replacement that needs to be done next year, the year after, the year after. Would that be accurate?
Correct.
So for next year, when we have the road program announced and ready, like this year, residents along those streets would have the opportunity, if they were willing to pay for the pipe, to do their culverts.
Correct.
So it's ongoing, which is also part of stormwater too. Would that be accurate?
Correct.
So it serves two purposes, stormwater and helps the road situation.
Correct. The next big one is gonna be Leadville Lane. A lot of pipes under there.
Any idea of how many?
We won't know until we walk in.
Very good, thank you. Nothing further, I appreciate it.
Also, make a motion here. Motion authorizing the mayor to sign the acknowledgement of the sponsor partnership responsibilities for the NOACA 24 to 27 Transportation Improvement Program, funding award and agreement for the Bell Road East project.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passed. Anything else for the street committee?
Mayor,
Yes.
they have to show the project ending in Daisy Lane, but they also have, it looks like an improper property or the Southwest Line crossing at Daisy Lane. That's probably an error in that.
So they think
We'll find out tomorrow.
Chagrin clinics in Chagrin Falls.
Well, if they pay for it,
They don't like it to be insured.
A question, Eric, and maybe this is probably, Chris, this probably should have been with this, street committee. You got out ahead of this last year, Tim, with these, culverts. If we're looking at Countryside, Hazelwood, Lakeview, Levy, those are tremendous numbers. Can we maybe make a decision this fall, the streets we're gonna pave next spring, to get the word to those residents? Hey, you know, next year, you probably want to get your culvert in place. Because I think getting out ahead of them gives them time to get ready. Because when you hit Bell Meadow, that worked perfectly because they knew a year in advance, hey, it's coming, and they got their, so we maybe won't have so many.
Yeah, I don't know if we get the PCI schedule done early, so we can kick that around and have it a little bit earlier.
It's just a thought.
I would be worried they're making an implied promise
Yes.
that somebody's street is going to be done, and then it turns out, for whatever reason,
Budgeting or some other.
Okay.
you know, I think it's a great idea to prepare people, but if you tell them in February, are we not in the same position?
Yeah, hopefully. Okay, Chris, you're still up, building committee.
Building committee met last Thursday in the building department. Minutes are becoming in the near future. I want to thank Councilman Canton for a lot of work he did with the residents in Laurelbrook. Some concerns they had. I appreciate the time he took and the efforts he put in for that. It helped me a lot. I've been pretty busy. Also, we've talked about in the past meetings about raising the reinspection fees. I'd like to do a first reading tonight of the ordinance amendment, raising that from $25 to $75. That's pretty much in line with other communities in the area. And hopefully it provides more of a deterrent from contractors, either A, not being prepared after they scheduled the inspection, or B, not showing up for the inspection. Councilman Cannon, do you have anything to add? I have nothing to add. That's it from the building committee.
Just one comment, and that is the new report format coming out of the computer system. Please inform Ruth. That's wonderful. I think it's easy to read. It's pretty clear and straightforward. So big step up.
Okay, Chief, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. I submitted a monthly report. I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Nice pictures of the kids fishing, the
Thank you.
kids biking.
Yeah, they turned out really well. I thought that'd be a nice visual. That's all I have.
Just curiosity, Vacation Watch was down almost 50%.
Yeah. Pretty
Thoughts?
crazy. We went from the March of, quite probably triple that, but, yeah, everything's started sort of slowing down for some reason, but, yeah, a significant drop from last year to this year.
Questions of the police chief?
Can't get one flavor.
Safety committee?
Thank you very much, Mayor. Safety met on July 6th. You found our minutes in our packet. Any questions? Our next meeting will be August the 3rd at 9 a.m. at the police station. Now, a couple things here. Concerning the proposed crosswalk project for 2024. The chief discussed the possibilities of placing this either in his budget or our street commissioner's budget. And I spoke to both individuals. And it might be best if they, along with Danielle, talk it over and see what's the best avenue to take. Is it possible to split it?
Well, it's necessary. Eric, what was the ballpark on both of those? 16 apiece?
Yeah.
I think we were budgeting a little higher for engineering costs. Do you remember what the number was off the top of your head?
I don't. It might have been 20 grand, nice round number.
So I think we were maybe talking about maybe 50,000.
I think the initial cost, the number that was being discussed was 17.
16,000 for
For construction,
times two, right? And then we had to figure engineering costs.
You're right, just minimal. I like to give higher numbers for budgeting than I actually plan on
You can
using.
place those funds wherever you'd like, and, you know, we'll.
Is this Gurney?
Well, this is for next year.
Next year.
So this will be discussed in the fall during the budget work session. There's no grants involved with this, correct?
This is the Overwood and Gurney.
No, this is, let more.
There was some discussion at Streets Committee that maybe we'd like to get with safety to talk about this and go into more detail. One of the questions on our mind is, how many kids would be using it? How many people would be using it? Presumably it's just not kids. And we don't want to create like a death trap here, on Bell Road.
Yeah.
But what's the usage compared to what's the cost? And perhaps we could arrange for a street committee, safety committee joint meeting at some point to go over this with the street commissioner in attendance as well.
Okay, since our last council meeting, I met with Chagrin Valley Fire Chief Frank Zubin to discuss the fire hall addition. And he told me that the last 3 months, they've been working with the state of Ohio to satisfy ADA requirements. And they have submitted it, the program, and now they're waiting for the state. Now, to approve. He did say that the supply chain, there are still issues with it. It has been a challenge. But by August, he feels that construction should be underway. That's all I have.
Questions of the safety committee? HR committee, Ruth, you're up.
HR did not meet this past week because I had an issue. So I haven't asked Chris if he wants to meet before the August meeting, or should we just wait till the August 3rd? That's when we would need to have Jim Budziak because we had to cancel him.
Let's meet as soon as we can be available next
Okay.
week.
Then that's good with me.
Yep.
Okay.
Councilman Cannon, we wanted to attend the last HR meeting. As we discussed in safety, we are accepting the resignation of one of our full-time officers going to another agency. And we were looking for authorization to put an advertisement out for full and part-time officers.
So we'd like a motion. Do we need a motion on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And do we need a motion to accept his resignation?
Yes.
Wait, not to accept, to acknowledge.
Acknowledge.
All right, so let's do a motion to acknowledge Michael Party. Is that okay, Ruth? We'll do that first.
Sure. Sadly, except we make a motion to acknowledge the resignation of Patrol Officer Michael Harding, effective 7/13/23.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passed. All right, and now we'll do a motion to allow the chief to go out to seek full-time and part-time officers.
Full-time, you can't, full-time and part-time.
Move to, give the chief permission to seek, full-time and part-time officers as he sees fit.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passed. What else, Ruth?
So I'll let Danielle know and she can sunshine an HR meeting as soon as.
And I'm
Okay, so we'll do it the week after.
Okay. All right, properties, there is a lot. Properties was a busy meeting last Thursday. And I don't know if we want to start with me or with Bridie or with who. We got a lot of stuff. And it's sloppy on my page, so I apologize. With the Holtz house, Tim took time and has gotten us 3 bids for the raising, the RAZ raising of the house and the garage. Buckeye Excavating, Green Vision, and Ziegler Earthworks. And Tim, do you want to say which one that you
I'd like to
suggested?
see Buckeye Excavating.
And it was because they included more of the fine details, the filter.
Yeah, we wanted to have water applied to the building as it's being taken down, being so close to the road, that we don't want a dust cloud forming over 306. And he's gonna provide his own water for that. One of the other bidders requested water to be provided. And another contractor asked if we could supply a filter to fill the hole. Buckeye with the bid, with his bid, everything is included.
Okay. We need a motion to
We-
accept the
Do we need a motion for him to go ahead and contact Buckeye? Okay, I move that we accept the bid from Buckeye Excavating on Frost Road in Manaway for a total of $24,900 to raise both buildings at, that we have just acquired at 306 and Bell.
So,
Moved and seconded.
discussion there.
Discussion.
The quotes, one of them Buckeye excludes the disposal of hazardous material.
Okay, there was a question about lead or asbestos. There was a gentleman who was supposed to stop by today, he didn't show up, they was gonna do an asbestos look to see about asbestos, and the lead, I was told, we don't have to worry about. Lead going to the landfill is okay, lead paint or lead pipe or whatever could go away.
I think asbestos requires special handling.
It requires abatement, correct? Where it has to be encapsulated, wrapped in plastic, and then disposed of in another landfill.
So should we contact that fellow again?
I'll contact this guy, see where he was, and also there's another company I can call.
Okay.
My rationale is that we don't want to find out the hard way, they're paying big bucks for hazardous waste removal because it's explicitly excluded in the quote. But the one from Ziegler included it. So if there's no hazardous material there, fine, it's not an issue. If there is, we should know in advance what we're dealing with. So whenever you have an update on that, perhaps you provide that to the mayor and council, Tim?
I will.
Okay.
Also, there was a question of a septic tank that was possibly on the property, Friday called me this morning. I went to the county, talked to them, they have no record of any septic tank on the property.
Question.
I'm sure it's hooked to the sewer system.
They're staying in their sewer.
Okay, thank you.
If I can ask, the Buckeye also excludes well abandonment?
I'd like to save the well. I don't want to, what we do is we fill it up with bentonite and encapsulate it. I would like to save it, and we would have a third well of a possibility to tie into.
So like
We have two now.
a hydrant, you'd have a hydrant or just?
Not a hydrant, a well. There's a well casing, it's in the basement. We would have to bring it up to the surface and cap
Okay.
Is there an advantage like piping it to any of the village buildings at some
it.
point?
Well, we could run a line to it from the service garage or from this building or.
Well, that's what came to my mind, Mark. You know, we don't have potable water in Village Hall,
And we
which
can
means
test that.
drinkable. But if they have a potable water source, and it seems to me like a dentist's office should have had water, hopefully. But, I would, support Mark to say we ought to have it tested. And if it is potable, we might be able to bring in some piping to supply Village Hall or other facilities that may not have potable water. And that way we don't have to import all our water for drinking purposes.
That's what I was thinking, and the idea being, we talked about drilling a well for a water source, potable water source for Village Hall over the years, and we have not done so because of the cost, and where would the well be, et cetera. So this is an opportunity to get some benefit out of that plot of land, just more than just the physical dimensions. Perhaps we should pursue that, and I'm glad you're thinking in those directions. So, fine. Okay.
Before you move on the motion, you might want to make it contingent on the asbestos abatement decision, right? Would you be really going forward with the demolition with Buckeye if in fact you do need to abate the asbestos or figure out a way to dispose of the hazardous material?
Should we not even pass the motion tonight until we know the cost of asbestos?
I mean,
Then we're in August.
right.
And then we're in September, before it's actually done. So I think the motion could be modified to include language such as pending receipt by the mayor and street commissioner, positive assurances as to the disposal of any hazardous material that might be in either of those two buildings.
What if there's an additional cost though? Right, that's not included in Buckeye, did I hear that correctly, right? It's
That's
actually-
correct.
Yeah, exclusively excluded. Well, the idea here is we get somebody who's competent and professional and licensed to tell us yay or nay on these two buildings. The small one probably doesn't, the larger one may.
There's potentially three sources of asbestos, and potentially. One, in the old house on the corner, if you've got any insulation or lagging on the furnace area in the basement, that's one source. But, you can remove that lagging and dispose of it. Two is acoustic ceiling tiles, and three is if there were floor tiles put in the 50s, those would contain asbestos. So those three areas, the individual should probably check out. And I can't recall what type of flooring they have in there, but, I do know there's some acoustic ceiling tiles in that place. And, it should be limited in terms of the insulation down on the furnace in the basement, but.
The two-story building is carpeted throughout, but that doesn't mean that they didn't just cover up the tiles. So I definitely don't know.
My amendment to the motion was receiving positive assurance. If you don't get positive assurance, then you can't proceed. So if the guy calls you and says, it's loaded with this, that, and the other thing, all stop, and we have to reconsider. And the reality is you get a quote from Buckeye, what's it gonna cost, and then we see.
The other issue is, have we done an inventory of anything that's inside of it? I know that I know you briefly spoke of there were some compressors, or maybe it wasn't a compressor. Other things that might have value, we do technically, anything inside there is village property, and we have to follow that rule that requires us to dispose of it the correct way, either selling it or disposing it if we're not gonna need it.
You mean loose things or
Almost anything.
doors attached?
I mean, if you were thinking of giving those to someone, absolutely, we do have to consider that. So that's
like
why,
we did with the rental house, right?
just like we did with the rental
We
house.
did an inventory.
Mayor, can we have an inventory done for those two properties, like we did with the rental house?
So are we capable of doing the inventory ourselves?
Yes, usually. I mean, unless, I know there was a specialized equipment down there that you thought was maybe
Yeah,
worth.
there were compressors, dehydrators, all attached to the plumbing within that would have pumped out suction machines and whatnot. There was one that was kind of blue in a box still in a case from, I'm guessing maybe the 70s. We did a quick check online of it. We took possession of it. It's at the police station. It is in a case, and the approximate value that we've seen online is about $700. So we could potentially gut deals that particular item, but I don't know what the condition of the other items are that are attached to the plumbing in the house. So, yeah, that's just
The fact that they were left there
yeah.
kind of tells you something.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So what you're mentioning is attached to plumbing fixtures. I mean, you're talking primarily about like refrigerators, couches, stuff like that.
I don't know, I haven't really, I mean, I've been through it, but I haven't really seen what exactly would be the, value or not value, but I guess the point is if we're gonna demolish it, and if we're gonna move forward with this, this bidder, I think you have to do an inventory before it actually gets raised.
So then step by step, we do an inventory. Do we have to attach value to things like doors or kitchen cabinets?
You can, but they can be nominal, right? I mean, if
Okay.
it's something-
So it's what we say is the value.
Yes, I mean, unless of course there is some sort of chandelier in there that's from, I don't know.
Tiffany.
Waterproof.
Right.
Thinking no, but okay. So Mayor, can the chief do that like we did with the rental house?
yes, I'm trying to think how to save time and money, and I can't think of it now. So can we just declare everything of now no value?
I think we should look through it first because we
Okay.
can't do that, right? There was this compressor that was taken that clearly has some sort of value.
So you make a list of stuff that's in the house.
Okay,
But the other part is that we have to decide it's either obsolete, not needed for our purpose, correct? Before then we sell it or dispose of it.
And then we have to make a motion to that effect, and then you can put it on good deals.
Correct, but if it doesn't sell on gut deals, then we're authorized to make a motion to dispose of it at that point.
Correct. Okay.
So the next step really is to come up with the list. Then they have to try to sell it. So that gives time to figure out about the hazardous material because you were talking all this anyway, because you'd have to look at the list.
Right, include windows, like,
I mean, I would normally say no, but since that was considered maybe possibly donating those things, then yes, I think you should.
So then I'll set a time with you when you're not busy. Is that okay? And we'll go over very soon.
Sorry, so who's doing the inventory? I apologize. So the property committee chair?
Does that include landscaping?
It can, yes. So even plants and rocks and, isn't there still a wooden flag on the top of one of the buildings?
yes, there is.
Okay.
I got my eyes on that too.
Remember, we can't do that.
Can't say that.
So even the plants,
Yes, I know it sounds,
Gosh.
I know.
It sounds
Okay,
ridiculous.
so, Mayor,
yes, sir.
then should we defer a motion on accepting the bid until August to allow for the inventory process to go forward and an evaluation of any hazardous materials?
I don't know that we need to overcomplicate it. I mean, we need the assurance from the asbestos floodplain guy. It should give enough time to
So if
do the inventory.
the guy says, no problem, we could go forward. If he says there's a problem, then we wait.
Okay,
Yeah. It gives the chief time to do his inventory.
What kind of a motion,
We have a motion on the floor right now. It's been moved and seconded. Do we accept the?
amended?
As amended, yeah.
As amended. Can you put that amendment on the
I
second?
guess I'm confused because if we're gonna do a list, council has to approve this list that it doesn't have value. So if we go in and there's doors there and we think they may have value, do we take all the doors out before they knock down the building?
Well,
I'm just
let's
looking,
use the example of the house across the street.
yeah.
Okay, we did not place value on any door, window, anything that was attached.
Just
It
the
was-
compressor that
It
you were
was the stuff that was left in there, movable items, but it wasn't light fixtures, it wasn't cabinets, it wasn't anything.
So
As a matter of fact, we ascribed no value to that, and that just got destroyed with the rental house across the street.
That's still part of the inventory because we put 0.
But I would recommend that we ascribe zero value, but we follow the same guidelines that we used on the other structure. So, as Mark said, we don't have to complicate this issue beyond, holding up any kind of tearing down of the building. You know, let's let common sense and reasonableness be our guide here and go forward.
Right, so streets will find the guy to do the asbestos, chief will take his inventory, and that doesn't take terribly long, I'm thinking. And then if you get good news, mayor and the street commissioner get good news about the hazmat, you're ready to march with demolition.
Are we okay with all this?
One last thing. I did notice in Buckeyes that they are excluding any permits. We do have to get a building permit to demolish, not a zoning permit, but a building permit.
I thought they just had to register with the village, and we would.
I don't think so. I think it actually, I talked to Dave today. Did you also, Ruth? I can't
I
remember.
didn't, but I got the message back, so
No zoning permit is required.
no planning
As I understood,
commission.
a building permit was required, so I apologize. I thought there was a fee associated with that.
It's like $100.
I think it's 75, maybe.
Okay.
I'm just saying, so just keep that in mind. That actually does add a cost to that, not to the bid, but to what we're doing. That's all.
So the contractor has to get the building permit to do demolition of village property on village property.
Yeah.
And pays us $75 to help tear down our own building.
I know, right? It sounds,
Can't the village get its own permit
yes.
Well, can we waive the fee?
and we can waive the fee?
Sure. You
Yeah.
can ask the building department if they would waive it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What if they say no?
Pay it.
Exactly. That has happened before.
Okay, amended motion.
Yes.
Who wants to second that amended motion?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and it's been amended and moved and seconded that we were going to hire Buckeye Excavating as long as the cost of possible
As long as the mayor and the
asbestos.
street commissioner receive positive assurance as to hazardous materials that may or may not be in the building and the cost of removal, if any.
We're gonna waive the fee for Buckeye. We'll ask Bruce to waive the fee for Buckeye Excavating.
Waive.
Well, I don't think that would be Bruce's decision.
Okay, got it. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
What's that quizzical look? from
No,
the
what I
legislature?
meant was, I think you were referring to Ruth Griswold waiving the fee, correct?
Yes.
I don't think she can waive the fee. I think it'd be something that Dave would say.
Dave will waive the fee. Okay, that's Dave.
Okay,
That was all on your time, Ruth.
I'm telling you.
That's just the first item.
So Brian, I have to ask, as a corollary to that, I thought that we could ask Habitat if they wanted doors and windows. And you mentioned something about disposal. This is all disposal we just talked about.
Correct.
So once I do that with Tim, and it sounds like the chief, then we can say,
Then it will come back to council, we'll make the motion, right? Or the resolution
Okay.
that it has no value, we're going to
for
dispose of it.
used stuff,
Then
with stuff marked.
Good.
All right. Let's see, and Danielle assured us that, yes, we do have liability insurance for this. And I think that's about all for the Holtz property, unless somebody else wants to refresh me on something I've forgotten. Tim, are you good with all that?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see,
The one thing that was discussed with each of the contractors, we're gonna save the crabapple tree in the back, and everything else goes. The trees up front are too close to the road, they don't really look that good, but the one in the back is nice, it'll be a nice park setting.
for those that want to sit out there. Okay.
It's gonna stay. That one's gonna stay. Correct.
Our Eagle Scout that spoke with us last month has done the bulk of his work at the cemetery, getting his kiosk up, and it looks good. It may need a few tweaks, but the mayor was there, and Mayor, you had a slideshow for us to see on that. Thank you for going, and I appreciate that. Then I've had discussion with Bridie over the cemetery. Do we want a cemetery board? Do we want to, how do we want to handle going to Rarick and hopefully having the capability legally to work the gravestones and honor our honored, we would say. Bridie suggested, and I'm sure she's going to pitch in here, that we can set up our own rules and regs. I personally do not want to create another cemetery board. That sounds bulky and big to me. We don't need it. I don't want to say we're going to have a levy on this from the cemetery committee. So I want Friday to go forward and figure out, like I said, I'd have to speak with you, and we figure out exactly what we want, which is what gives Tim permission or in-house permission to fix and correct when we cannot find a living heir who has not taken care of or is not capable of taking care of their antecedents' grave place.
And would that just be for Rarick? That was my one
For
question.
Rarick only, yes, I'm only talking about Rarick, I'm not talking about the new cemetery.
Could we not declare a nuisance?
That the village has created a nuisance, was maintaining a nuisance with the gravestone.
Well, the graves are privately owned, right?
They're deeded property.
They are deeded property. I don't think it's fee simple, but it's like an interest into the property. I know, you do get a plot, right? You get like a description and everything, but as I've read, I don't know that it's actually a fee simple title.
Well, it'd be something akin to a tenant.
Okay.
And the tenant is creating a nuisance, which empowers the village to correct the nuisance.
But we don't know who as I understand it, we're not sure who is necessarily the successor owners of some of the.
Well, it's the tenant.
Okay. I mean, we could look into
There
that.
may be nothing left of the tenant, right?
Right.
But if the nuisance continues, right?
I mean,
And if we declare it a nuisance, then we are to empower the street commissioner to fix the nuisance.
For example, in going up the steps from Bell Road, so I went, I think Sunday, and the very first gravestone on the left looks like part of it fell earlier at some unknown time, and part of it has just fallen because the concrete, the stone itself looks brand new. It's not weathered, it's not mossy, and it's a mess. So it would be a nuisance if some older person walked up there and tripped on it.
So once it's a nuisance, the village can correct the nuisance. Before.
Yes.
Do we have to declare a nuisance for each individual plot?
I'm good with doing a computer search to see if there's any.
Well, now that we have a list posted,
the list from the Eagle Scout?
Yes, so he has the history of the Rarick family and cemetery and a little bit of the property. On the back, he has a listing of all the people that we know of that are buried there.
so if we list all of the people by name, whose graves they are, and declare a nuisance over the whole of it, I guess we could just do the whole thing. I don't think we have to do the individual ones. And then we declare the nuisance, Tim goes fixes everything, then we conclude the nuisance has been abated until 50 years down the road and we need to do it again.
Well, and
We
so then
will
why
be
not just
fine.
make a new rule for Rarick, right? If that's really where you're going, but, you know, if there's gravestones that are in disrepair, that the street commissioner can fix them at a certain expense, I don't know.
Do you need an ordinance or a resolution or motion?
Why don't
I
we
think
have
for
it?
the rules, you would want an ordinance or a resolution.
Can we draft an ordinance that would allow the street commissioner to do this without declaring a
I
nuisance?
think you have to still have rules and regulations in place, but yes, it'd be part of your rules.
How about we have a cemetery meeting? Go through all this stuff.
Is there any
Instead of all of us
evidence,
sitting here talking about it all night.
is there any evidence that there are descendants that go to the cemetery and maintain any graves or send flowers or anything at all?
I know of one set of descendants and they are fine with the village taking over for their folks.
What I'm getting at is we should do something before winter if we're going to do something.
Sure.
We declare a nuisance, we can fix it.
I just don't know about I'd have to look into that.
Certainly.
Okay.
But we can certainly serve each tenant
That would be
easily.
As I understand, that's actually very difficult.
No, you go to the grave and you put it on the stone.
Okay, I don't know that that would work, but Definitely consider it.
I'm having nightmares of law school exams passed.
It's like a 3-day notice, you know, whether they get the, whoever's on the door.
I don't know, Mark. Maybe.
So then, Bridie, you're gonna find out, and you're gonna get back to me.
Sure.
So
So is there like opposition to creating new rules for Rarick or including Rarick in the rules we already have? Just specifically saying what applies to Rarick?
Just basically, I wanna keep it as simple as possible. That's the only thing I want, and as respectful as possible.
Yes.
Can we say on August the 3rd, at the next property committee meeting, we will deal with the cemetery?
Yes,
I mean, we're wasting time
If-
back
if-
and forth.
Tim thinks that's,
Efficient method, let us do that.
Okay.
okay. Thank you, and thank you, Bridie.
What time is that meeting?
10 o'clock on August the 3rd. It's a normal property committee meeting.
Thank you.
The last thing, I hope this is the last thing, the Masons and I are scheduling a walkthrough for where we can put the flag, the walk, the bench, and Dennis will be happy that we believe we have a flag that, solar, that will keep that thing well lit,
Good to hear.
That's,
up and coming. Thank you, that is the end of properties.
sort of, birthday party. You want to talk about the birthday party?
Yes, I'll talk about the birthday party, and you're gonna fill in whatever I forget. I have sent out, Danielle found some nice, cards, South Russell cards, and I've sent out, to as many people that I know of. And we have asked in the newsletter, we have asked all around, we've asked people who's lived here long, like 50 years, who's a lifer, and we haven't gotten a lot of response. So I had sent out to whoever I thought was fit any of those categories or had served. We have multiple widows and spouses of people that have served. I sent one to them. And we have cake ordered for Sunday, July 23rd at 6. Mayor's gonna pick up the cake. I hope he's made arrangements for the ice cream. And we have people coming. He suggested I dress in 1920s dress. We'll see about that. And we're going to welcome the people and maybe give a little speech. I'm sensing that this is gonna be more of a welcome, and kids are gonna be there. It might be too much brouhaha to go into a lot of talk. I'm still in the process of getting some pictures, old-fashioned pictures blown up into posters. So that's where we are and looking forward to it. He thinks we'll have a big crowd. I'm saying 25 years ago, we had your mother helping me with gray heads of 150 people out in the audience, but it was a great audience. They were wonderful.
Free cake, free ice cream on a Sunday night. You're going to have a
I hope we have a great crowd.
The only other thing we're going to do is, I did get Don Hines, the astronomer, he'll bring his telescope. There'll be no bike ride, and we scratched out something else. Anyhow, it's just gonna be cake, ice cream, astronomer.
Oh, those lanterns, we can't have
Yes.
lanterns by CEI's way
We
station.
wanted to do 100 Chinese lanterns, but as Tim reminded us, the wind blows east, and there's power lines, right? Not a good idea.
Is there a rain date?
We'll have to.
If there's a rain date, Jerry,
We'll be coming
don't
around.
talk to me the next day.
We'll do the fall festival.
Yeah.
Yes, the next week was
If
good.
any employee wants to volunteer to work that day, let us know and we'll figure out what we're gonna need, so that doesn't become an issue. But we're good, we got everything set.
Yeah, if the mayor's prognostications might go forward, we might need traffic. We'll see. So I don't know what else to tell you, except it's a possibility.
Anything else from the property committee or the park committee?
Parks is going to meet next week, and that is, give me a 17th at 7 PM at the Pavilion, park meeting.
And Ruth, I will send a gentle reminder.
Thank you very much. The park committee, they work it, and they are a pleasure to work with.
All right, you want to make the motion?
We don't, nobody objected to it, so we don't need a motion.
No? Okay.
Any other questions of the property or the park committee? We are now at Public Utilities Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. Motion to approve payment application number 2, final with South Russell Village share of $80,583.28 and OPWC share of $40,322 to Grade Line Inc. for the Chillicothe Culvert Project. So moved.
Second.
Moved and second, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
Okay. You're gonna have to remind me, Mayor, what the Shearbrook replacement landscape
Tore up
is.
3 bushes when we put the culvert in, so we're gonna replace those.
Oh, and do we have a dollar value?
Not at this time. I spoke to Patty Group, which is their landscaper, and they didn't get back with me yet.
Not to exceed
I don't know what's the price of the bush.
500.
$500? Okay. Motion to approve funding for Shearbrook replacement landscaping not to exceed $500. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
Okay. Public Utilities Committee met last week. Minutes to be forthcoming. Just a quick comment that while we have looked at all the major projects that we've done, and we're starting to get to the end of the list according to the master stormwater program that was created back in 2004, the committee is starting to transition into maintenance items that we're looking at on a continuing basis. Part of that is the ponds in the village and looking at what those need to be done. So we are moving in that direction, and we will meet again on August 4th at 9 a.m. And that concludes the report. Question?
Just one thing to add, there's, Jerry brought up the ponds and the engineer field, getting in on what's going on with the ponds. One of the things that we may be interested in long-term planning are easements to access the property of each of these pond owners so that it runs with the land and for the purpose of ascertaining the depth of each pond on an ongoing basis. And as the engineer noted, I think 47 is the last count.
I just counted, there's 43.
43. And they would start with the larger ponds that are retention ponds for stormwater and work our way down. But ultimately, we would have, the village would have permission to go onto a private landowner's property and take soundings of the pond for the purposes of determining silt and potentially cost of dredging, if need be. And possibly leased village-wide for that purpose. So anyway, that's our goal, solicitor, but I don't know how successful we'll be, but we haven't tried it.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Any other things for public utilities? All right, Chris Bell, second reading on the ordinance resolution. Oh, I'm sorry, no, Jerry, can't.
Thank you, Mayor. Second reading of an ordinance, amendment section 618.01, section C, paragraph 2 of the codified ordinances of the Village of South Russell to require dogs on leashes not more than 8 feet long on property other than private property of dog owner and declaring an emergency.
Second reading, all right, Chris Berger.
Introduce and consider for adoption an ordinance amending ordinance number 2023-06, certifying advance of $50,000 even from the income tax fund to the culvert fund instead of the transfer of $50,000 to the culvert fund, declaring an emergency, waive further readings.
Second.
Roll call.
Bell.
Aye.
Berger.
Aye.
Canton.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Licky.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Bell.
Aye.
Berger.
Aye.
Canton.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Licky.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Ordinance passed.
Introduce and consider for adoption an ordinance transferring $500,000 even from the income tax fund to the safety fund, $300,000 even, general fund $100,000, street fund $100,000, declaring an emergency, waive further readings.
Second.
Roll call.
Bell.
Aye.
Berger.
Aye.
Canton.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Lickey.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Bell.
Aye.
Berger.
Aye.
Canton.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Lickey.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Ordinance passed. Go ahead, Chris, this is yours.
Introduce an ordinance amending section 1440.04H1 of the codified ordinances of the Village of South Russell and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Okay, we are at the bills list. Chris.
Motion to ratify the bills list of June 15, 2023 in the amount of $244,418.62. Bills list of June 16, 2023 in the amount of $1,000 even. And the bills list of June 29th, 2023 in the amount of $43,228.52.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Danielle, thank you for paying all your support. We are now new other.
Other, Bell.
Really quickly, I said to her before the meeting, but I want to say it in the meeting publicly on YouTube. I want to compliment Councilwoman Kavanaugh for her article in the Scranton Valley Times about the 100th year anniversary of South Russell. Your knowledge of our history is pretty impressive. So
Thank you.
thanks for representing us well. That's all I have.
Berger.
None.
Canton.
Yes, a couple things. I too would like to congratulate the gentle council lady for her article. I have a comment to make concerning the visitors section this evening. There were approximately 32 guests here tonight, and I would like to thank them for coming here. They were very impressive. They came here to support their neighbors. And the individual they came here to support, and the individual's wife is doubly blessed because their son stood up and vouched for his father. And I thought that was very admirable. So
Kavanaugh.
Nothing further.
Lickey.
None.
Porter.
Just one thing, we talked about, I think, street committee meeting, about amending the food ordinance to include,
Trash day.
that's a trash day. And if the solicitor could have an amendment to that ordinance at our next council meeting, it would be appreciated. I see 3 readings, Chris, I don't know the reading.
No reason. Yeah.
Trash day next year, right, street commission?
That's everybody there.
Okay.
thank you again, Mayor. At this time, I would like to make a motion to enter into executive session. To enter with the solicitor regarding pending or imminent litigation involving the village pursuant to section 121.22, section G, paragraph 3 of the Ohio Revised Code, and to invite into executive session the mayor, fiscal officer, police chief, lieutenant, and the solicitor.
Bell.
Aye.
Berger.
Aye.
Canton.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Lickey.
Aye.
Porter.
We'll take a couple minute break. We'll jump on these chairs and get the best here.
Yes, sir. Great to see you.
Anastasia, how are you, dear?